Welcome back to the podcast today and today's episode with me, Johnny Pardo. Today I welcome MJ Renshaw, and I'm really excited about this, talking about the nervous system, breath work, trauma, and feeling into our emotions, actually talking about crying and how we can do more of that. So many exciting things I'm looking forward to talking about today. So just a quick introduction to MJ. So MJ Renshaw is a breathwork facilitator, podcast host, author, and the founder of the Being Method, a science-backed spiritual education platform that has empowered thousands through breathwork. MJ guides individuals to heal emotional trauma, regulate the nervous system, and reconnect with their bodies by merging scientific principles with spiritual insights, providing practical pathways to emotional and physical well-being. So welcome to the show today, MJ. Glad to have you on.
Grateful to be here.
Awesome. So yeah, first of all, we love to hear, what is the Being Method? Can you tell us a little bit about that to begin
Yeah.
with?
I mean, it's mostly just bred from my own personal interest in science and spirituality. I studied philosophy in university and then went on to do osteopathy, so more of a science background, and found that while the two worlds were commonly at odds, they had more in common with each other than most people realize. And then that's just kind of where my free time meanders, is just trying to understand, the science behind different spiritual practices. Breathwork, obviously, being the biggest one that I've taken a deep dive down because that's what I teach, and that's what we certify people in. But also looking at, how does sunlight affect human health? How does grounding affect human health? How does crying affect human health? How does hugging a tree affect human health? All these simple things that might be overlooked because they can't be, commodified or, branded, but have immense health, benefits.
Oh wow. Yeah, I love the way you're blending the spiritual side and the scientific side, because yeah, I know sometimes people are like one or the other sometimes. But yeah, bringing them both together, that sounds like a really interesting journey, being able to do that.
Yeah, I think I'm a really curious person, and I think a lot of other people are really curious too. Like, how does it work? How does it
Mm.
how does it work? Especially in the breathwork world. You'll see online you should do square breathing. Well, how does it work? Should you be doing it? Those are some questions that I'm always asking with different things. And I think when you get into the anatomy and physiology behind breath work and understanding what happens when you hold on an inhale and what happens when you hold on an exhale and how are they different, things get really interesting and far beyond just the prescriptive nature of some of the breathwork techniques that are shown online. It's it's mind blowing.
That's fascinating. Yeah, like when you actually study and like the impacts. I know there's many different ways to breathe as well. It's like so many out
Yeah,
there.
yeah. I got just teased online the other day on one of my ads of people being like, "Oh yeah, teach me how to breathe, and then after you could teach me how to walk." And I was like, "Well, you'd be surprised at how many people are breathing and walking wrong, like, and how those two things could potentially lead to really downstream health effects that you wouldn't want." We know now that if you go to your doctor and they test your breath rate per minute, how many breaths you're taking in a minute, that could tell something. Like, say you breathe 25 times a minute, which is really fast. A lot of people aren't breathing like that, but say you were, they would be able to know that you were more likely to have a heart attack very soon.
Wow.
Now, our family doctors don't take that metric because I think the respiratory system is undervalued in terms of its total effect on our health. But we are starting to look at it and see these metrics and being like, wow, there are a lot of different symptoms that might be remedied by breathing differently. Simply something like simple as anxiety. If you have someone who's chronically hyperventilating, but who's going to look at that? Your family doctor probably won't. Your therapist won't. Those are the two people you would go see. But we know that if you were chronically hyperventilating and you didn't know how to actually breathe properly, that could be creating anxiety for you. Actually, it would be creating anxiety for you because breathing is simply a reflex. The way you breathe will reflex into your nervous system and make you feel a certain way. And it's not a subjective thing. It
Mm.
is built into our evolution from for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. So if you inhale quickly, your heart rate will go up, no matter who you are or where you come from. And if you exhale slowly, your heart rate will go down. And that's the same for every single person on this planet. And I think that's one of the reasons why I love breath work so much is because it works for anybody. Doesn't matter who you are. You could take something like magnesium and test it on a bunch of people. And there's a bunch of people who will find benefit, and there's a bunch of people that won't. But with something like breath work, because it's so innate to our physiology, it will help every single person. In fact, I would put every single investment that I have in the bank account on the line that any person who started studying breathwork and found a technique that fit them and their lifestyle, they would see benefit. And there's not many things that we could say that with.
Yeah. Yeah, there's all these different things out there, but yeah, the breath is something we all have. And you're saying with breath work, it may be what one person needs may be different from another.
Big time. Big time,
Okay.
big time. I think we're all at a different place with our nervous system. This is why, I'm pretty against, one technique being implemented for everybody. I think that every single technique is valuable, but for different people at different points of time. Some people would really benefit from, doing more calm, deep breathing. But if you take someone who's at a very agitated nervous system state, that might feel like torture for them. Although you would think you need to slow down and do some parasympathetic breathing because you are like blinking really fast at me. But it's going to feel horrible for them. They're used to a certain state. I think with breath work, I always like to meet people where they're at and then coax them into a different nervous system state. But yeah, I don't think every breath work is for everybody. Obviously, like you're not going to take a pregnant woman and have her do breath holds. It's not
Yeah.
it's not a good idea. Or you're not maybe not even going to have her do sympathetic breathing. I've heard every single opinion or hate on every single type of breathwork that there is. Because I think the breathwork world, for some reason, there's some drama and some contention. But I see that a lot of the different techniques can help different people in different ways. The more, intense breathwork that's more sympathetic, for some people, it might not be a good idea. But for other people, it could be absolutely life-changing. So there's only one way to find out. And I'm a big believer that people know their own bodies better than any breathwork guide you're ever going to hire. This is how we certify our students and how we work with people is that how do you feel? Are you coming up against a block that feels like it's like a very serious, like no? Or are you coming against a block that you're like, okay, it's time to actually push past that one. I'm ready to kind of go to the other end and see what that healing looks like. I think when people take empowerment into their own hands, of being like, I'm going to make this choice to push, or I'm going to make this choice to actually step back a little bit, that's where the healing happens. It's not when someone yells at you to keep going, right? It's when you make that decision yourself because you've learned to listen to the voice in your own head. And you know the voice that says, any runner understands this. I'm a runner. So there's a voice in your head that says, you should stop now. And that's just like a lazy voice. It just doesn't want to do anything. And I constantly tell that voice, sorry, we're going to keep going. But then I have another voice in my head that actually really knows when I should stop. Because like you're going to tear something.
Yeah.
And I've ignored that voice before too. And I tore both my ankles.
Wow.
I didn't know it at the time, but when I stopped, I was like, wait, I can't walk. So that's giving you a little bit too much into my psyche. But it's important to understand those voices in your own head. And I think breathwork's an amazing practice for it because it can be a little bit uncomfortable, but you have to find where your boundaries are and learn how to push them a little bit. And when you do, when you have a guide that can let you, you can learn to trust yourself when it's a no and trust yourself when it's a, okay, I'm going to do this. And it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable. And I'm probably going to remember some things I don't really want to and feel some things I don't really want to, but that's going to be the door to healing and the door to freedom.
I love that. Yeah, like knowing your own body best and tapping into your intuition. I'm a runner as well. I relate to that. There's the, I'm gonna run up that hill, and it's like, yeah, I've got to push through it. And then there's the, or the half marathon or whatever. And then also, but also I can relate to it with breath work with the, oh, right. It's like, actually, I'm being a bit. I'm trying to release some stuff, but I'm actually easing off. I'm being a bit caught. Like I need to release some stuff right now, but I'm not pushing myself. But then there's the
Yeah.
like, my body's like really going, and I just need to grab a pillow and then maybe release something into it. And it's not a time for me to do even more breath. So I like that
Yeah.
knowing yourself. So is it a bit? So someone who might be like dealing with a lot of anger issues would need to breathe differently from someone who's maybe a bit depressed.
That's a really good question. I've never thought about it in terms of the actual emotion. I always think about it in terms of where is this person's nervous system state at? Typically, when you find someone who's struggling with something like depression or sadness, they're going to be very parasympathetic, very slow.
Shut
I
down.
mean,
Yeah.
we see that in the actual diagnosis. Like there's a struggle to get up, there's a struggle to get going, there's less doing energy going on. So if I would have those people wake up and try a parasympathetic or a sympathetic breath work, like get some energy going into your body, like feel a little high, like get high on your own supply. But it's not going to work for everybody all the time. I think, people aren't robots and breathwork's not prescriptive. Sometimes you think something's going to work for someone and it doesn't. And when you try the other thing, you're like, oh, that worked for them. So I have no prescription for any
Yeah,
certain body.
yeah,
I've
sure.
just learned along the road that everybody is so unique and they come to things with their own biases, and their own preferences and their own aversions to feeling certain things. And you don't want to push people through that. You just want to let them. I mean, it's scary. It's scary because a lot of us aren't taught how to be in our own body, how to feel our own emotions in totality. It's a scary place to go for a lot of people to revisit maybe some of the somatic trauma that's there. So I think you just got to ease into it with people.
Yeah, be the guide. It's not a, yeah, as we've been saying, or you've been saying, it's not one size fits all. It's like very much different breaths of different people. I wanted to touch on like the a little bit leading on from the somatic like trauma or the emotional trauma in the body and what we were talking about before the show a little bit and about releasing tears or maybe someone's got some grief built up. So that's your latest book.
Yeah. We
Yeah,
just published How to Cry. It's a bestseller on Amazon.
that's awesome.
Thank you. It's exciting. I mean, it's bred from my personal story. I had a really rough childhood. I had a dad who was addicted to drugs, and I lost my big brother in an accident. And then my dad relapsed and committed suicide. And I was being sexually abused the whole time. It was an awful childhood. Like if someone knows the ACE score, I'm like a 10 out of 10 on that, which is the adverse childhood effects. So we know people who have adverse childhood effects are, however times more likely to get certain diseases. Why does that happen? Because people can store trauma in their body that happened when their childhood or later in life, and that can create things like inflammation. It can create cancer. It can create heart disease, autoimmune conditions. A lot of these things, which we thought of just being pure physiological, we kind of understand now that there is a big psychoneuro component to it. And that's why we have the study or the whole branch of medicine called psychoneuroimmunology, which looks at when you have emotions or when you store emotions, it affects your immune system. So I got really interested in that research for my own benefit, but also just to understand there has to be emotional connections to diseases, and there is. So the research is fascinating. I mean, just to the one I told you before we started recording was that, people really care about health and wellness and longevity. If you suppress your emotions, you're 35% more likely to die prematurely. That's almost like smoking. That's worse than smoking. But a lot of us still do it. So, I mean, I'm raging hard for a revolution of, not seeing crying as something as being weak, but something that builds strength. We know that when people cry, it reduces their inflammation, it reduces their cortisol, it increases oxytocin, so connection with other people. And then there's kind of like the selfish benefits where you're more trustworthy as a person. You're more likely to be successful because you're more in touch with your emotions and you're able to make connections and build true intimacy with other people, whether that's a family or a business partner.
Mm.
The benefits are a lot, but the downside of suppressing emotions is not good. I
Mm.
shouldn't laugh, but it's really not good.
No, 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 I've got you. For like some of us, I mean, as kids, I always think of like kids when we're like kids, we're like, we've all got different childhoods, but typically a lot of kids are like expressing, it's like expressing, and then as adults, we suppress more. I personally feel, or see, and I know I've done it myself. Um, So yeah, like I love what you're trying to do to allow people to get some of these out rather than that 35%. Stat of more that's shocking. More likely to something serious is going to happen. But yeah, like do you think it's possible for like anyone to sort of like release? Because sometimes we've got like years and years of held back, and I don't know, some people might. I've been to like men's group, and there's just a guy turns up and like, I just can't break down, I just can't cry. Do you feel like anyone can do it?
Yeah. I mean, it's a normal physiological thing to do. We
Mm,
come out as babies crying.
mm,
Right? So it's a normal thing. I think different people have their different life experiences that can block them, but
mm,
I'm not someone that would ever put a limitation on a human being. I've seen people do pretty wild, miraculous things. So I believe that anyone can do anything, but it's not going to be as easy for some people as it is for other people. I always think about watching my older brother as we grew up. If he emoted, especially something like sadness, he was bullied, right? So
mm.
his nervous system was built to tell him, if you do this thing, if you cry, you will be basically made fun of by other young men or the elder men in our kind of family or surrounding area. So it's really hard to break through those patterns that you learn as a kid, but it's totally possible, especially when you find kind of a more safe place to do it. Sometimes, if you're at a men's group and you're surrounded by 30 other men, and even though they're doing it too, it might be too much to be witnessed. Like I struggled to cry for, well over a decade. I've still only cried in front of my husband. I'll get there one day. I'll cry in front of other people, but it's still something that I don't feel comfortable doing in front of, big groups of people yet. And this is coming from the person who wrote the book.
Yeah.
So I know the benefits. I just am still not there yet. It is an extreme show of vulnerability. And if you don't believe that you are inherently safe where you are, it's going to be hard to do.
Yeah. I guess some people may find it hard to just cry by themselves as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's
Yeah.
possible. It's just, it might be a bit harder to get it
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
I mean, go on YouTube, look up sad dog videos. You'll get there. Yeah.
There's certain
Yeah,
sounds
watch what's that movie, Marley and Me, about the dog? Just watch
I've
that.
not watched it. No, there's some, yeah. And I guess it goes back to, does that go back into like what's for you? Because some, it might be music, some people,
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
might be
everybody's gonna have
movie. Yeah.
their own thing that will trigger them. I have this is very, very personal and vulnerable, but I actually have a folder in my Instagram of Instagram reels that have made me cry, and it's called Cry, and I put them in there. And when I know that I'm feeling a little stressed or agitated, I just need to release, I go in there and I watch them and I cry.
That's
And I
super
think
interesting.
it, you're like, great, that's really embarrassing. Um, But I think it's good to think of taking the time and space to release the emotions because we live in a very fast-paced world. I have two
Mm,
toddlers, so I don't really have time to sit around and just like think about how I'm feeling. Usually I'm like dodging a block being thrown at my head and then picking up things off the floor. But when I do have that small space, I always think like I'm very stressed. I feel stress in my body right now. Like, oh, I haven't checked in. Like, how am I feeling really? And not just how am I feeling, but like, am I feeling it?
yeah.
Am I giving myself time to feel?
Yeah, I like the concept of, giving yourself some, what you said about, you feel like a build up, because I've certainly been there as well. And it's like, I'm just like, I'm not feeling it today. And I know there's just, and it usually goes to like an intense anger that it doesn't tend to lash out at other people. I'm the kind of person who won't like be nice or be assertive and be honest with people. But like when I'm really angry, I'll stay away and kind of when that's built up. But often I need to release it, and then that comes out in the form of tears because it's usually like sadness beneath.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
I feel so much better, so much more
Yeah.
energetic and clear through the day.
Yeah. That most people who are angry are sad, right? But anger is a most more socially acceptable emotion. If a man, especially men, if they show anger, that could be a sign of strength. But if they show sadness, it could be a sign of weakness, in a pretty toxic culture. So I think a lot of men will turn to anger first.
Yeah, definitely being there, and it's kind of there's sometimes the anger's power, but it really is the power's the feeling, the emotions for me, and releasing
Yes.
the emotions. Yeah.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive. It's counterintuitive. I always think of the quote, I'm not religious, but I always think of the quote, the meek will inherit the earth. And what does that mean? Like the meek will inherit the earth. It's the people who are willing to, instead of step forward and like have a battle, but the people who are willing to step back and be like, I'm going to stay in love. I think that's what it means is to inherit the earth, right? Um, emotions can be Emotions rule everything that happens in the world. The reason why we have war, the reason why we have genocide, it's the reason why we have domestic abuse, it's the reason why we have anything negative. It's all from emotions. And I would go as far as to say it's all from trauma and suppressed emotions. And I think if people just looking at the studies, like if we have people learn to acknowledge what their emotion is that they're feeling and give themselves 3 to 5 minutes to feel it, we would have a lot less action that is bred from emotional suppression, right? There's the paradox that if I suppress this emotion, it will go away. The paradox is actually that if you suppress that emotion, it'll come back tenfold, and probably when you don't want it to come back, especially something like anger. I love the emotion anger. I love jealousy. I love all those emotions. I think they get bad they get a bad rep, but I think they're really amazing as things to feel, not things to go and do negative things with. That's an action. That's not an emotion, right? But jealousy and anger, they're good feelings. And really positive things can be bred from them. Like any human rights movement has been bred from anger.
It's like can't settle. Yeah, you can't settle for any. It's like I don't want to settle for this anymore, and it's like I'm worth more than this. I want to change,
Yes.
and then that can be a
Yes.
good driver, I guess, right?
Yeah, it's like it's anger comes when we recognize that something is unfair or I'm being treated in a way that I don't want to be treated. I'm being disrespected. And I think, the more people are able to recognize that's what it is and that's why I'm feeling this way, it becomes a lot easier to actually find an actual solution, not just bump heads with somebody over and over again or create a war that nobody needs.
Yeah, from like the build up of like the suppressed emotions, like you said, that result in it. Do you find? Do you find like there's different ways of we talked about breath work and different types of breath work, but have you found there's different ways to express different emotions to kind of through the body?
Absolutely, yeah. So that, I'm a big proponent of anything somatic. Breathwork in and of itself is a somatic practice because you are using the body, you're using your diaphragm. But there's so many different modalities that you can pull from in order to layer on deeper somatic experiences with breathwork. So say you're laying down and you're doing whatever type of breathwork you like to do, and you wanted to cultivate a sense of feeling safe or a sense of feeling more calm, you could give yourself a hug, right? You could put something heavy on your chest, like a dog, a child. I'm like thinking of things in my room. You could do something called butterfly tapping, which is bilateral tapping. I can show it in the video. You kind of go over your chest and you tap on each
Yeah,
side back and forth. That's from EMDR, right? So you're going to tell the different hemispheres of your brain, we're not in that moment right now. We're actually here.
yeah,
So when you start to go to an event that happened in the past and it's something that's deeply uncomfortable and you start emoting and feeling it and really diving deep into that grief, that hurt, that shame, that anger, that sadness, if you're butterfly tapping at the same time, you're going to be telling your body throughout the whole experience, I'm here now. We are actually here in this present moment. You help process it and help it become a memory, not something that your body's stuck in processing, thinking that it's happening right now. There's tons of them. I love EFT tapping too. The whole like it's usually just called tapping. I love it. Anything that makes you feel good. I love running. And whenever I'm angry, I go for a run. I will listen to Kendrick Lamar and I will run around my neighborhood. That's somatic. You could stomp on the ground. You could hold your hands in a fist. You could push your wall as hard as you can.
you roll on the floor like a toddler.
Exactly. Yeah. Like let your body feel it. Like, yes, exactly. When I watch my son, if he's really into anything dangerous. So he wants to get the knives every day. And I have to be the parent and be like, no, we're not going to get the knives today. And he gets really mad at me. And his whole body feels it. Like he's clenching his fists. He hits me. He's hitting the floor. He's letting out his anger. And my job as a parent is to just let him do that. Obviously, not let him hit me, but my job is to let him go through his full emotion and say, like, yeah, you're angry right now. That's okay. You're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to cry. I say that to my kids all the time. I always say, like, it's okay to cry. You cry when you need to cry.
I
That's,
remember. Yeah, sorry,
sorry.
carry on.
I was just going to say that's fundamentally way different than what I was hearing growing up.
It's interesting. We were in. I remember being in one of our men's groups, and one of the guys was like, was saying his son. He really wanted to do the best for his son, and when his son cries, he's wondering if he wants to, should be to his son and try and not shout at him, but like get him to stop crying. And then the leader goes, "No, you want to allow him to cry. It's like you need him to experience that emotion."
Yes. Yeah. I see it all the time. Like I was at the beach the other day and a baby started crying and the parent, they mean well. They don't know.
Yeah.
But they take out their keys and jingle it, try to distract him. And then now we have generations of people, they go to cry and what's the first thing they do? They distract themselves. I just held up a phone for anybody listening. You
Yeah.
distract yourselves, right? That's my thing. Like if I feel too much emotion come on, I'll immediately start scrolling. And then I'm like, what am I doing? I should be in my body right now, experiencing the blessing that is my life and like trying to feel all of it. That's what Rilke said. You have to feel it all.
I
And if you
love.
block, sorry, were you going to say you love Rilke?
No, I love that. I was going to say. Yeah.
But yeah, I just think if you try to block out the negative emotions, if you want to stamp those out, you're going to stamp out the joy and the elation and the love as well. They come all together. You just have to feel everything or nothing at all. You can be numb. But I would way rather have those highs.
But yeah, we find all ways to block out the bad ones, like whether it is
Any
scrolling, whether it's
addiction,
alcohol
literally
or yeah.
any addiction is someone who has trauma, who's very uncomfortable and afraid or unable to, I don't want to say unable because everyone is able to, but unable in that they lack the know-how to face that emotion and process that trauma. I mean, that's Dr. Gabor Mate's work. It's all trauma. I think if anyone who has any sort of an issue, like overspending on their phone all the time, working, you can go to drugs and cigarettes, TV, Netflix, whatever it is. If you're constantly trying to check out of your own life and numb yourself to it, if you got really real with yourself, you're just trying not to feel something. And it's probably shame, it's probably sadness, it's probably grief. I mean, the good thing is that I don't remember who did the study, but like typically we don't feel emotions longer than 90 seconds. So if you just let yourself go, I mean, I don't know, Johnny, when's the last time you cried?
Yesterday.
How long did it last?
Probably about 5 minutes max.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, but how, like the actual like big cry part?
Yeah, that probably wasn't long than 90 seconds. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
happy to share mine. Mine was like, we were talking about, there's a bit of a build up, and I'm like, all right, this is sadness. So I get my music on, I go there, and I'm like breathing into the
Radiohead.
heart,
Yeah.
breathing into my binaural beats, like breathing into my heart. And then it was just probably like a big cry for about maximum 90 seconds. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not long. And it's a good pain. Like once you open that door past that like scary looking door that has like shame written on it or grief written on it, once you open it, especially grief, like that one's very hard because you have to face this thing that is unchanging, right? It's not going to change. That's why we have grief. And underneath that, especially if you've lost someone or a pet, is all the love you have for that person. You get to feel that love again. And it is such I don't want to say a reward, but it feels better than numbing it out.
Powerful. Love that. I love that, MJ, and I love that you've created a book that I'm excited to read about how to cry more, because I feel like I want to invite that even more because you feel great, like you say, great after a good cry. But
Yeah, you
yeah,
do. And like and in a way that's quantifiable. Your cortisol has gone down, your HRV has gone up. Like any measurement you want to take, it's gotten better. Your inflammation has gone down.
yeah, science. There's the science behind it.
Science, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So there's lots of that in the book. And there's also lots of exercises too. We go through each emotion, show you how to know you've stored it and how to know different techniques that you could let it go.
Amazing. So yeah, MJ, where can the listener find your book, and if they want to reach out and find out more about your work, because I know you go a lot deeper than what we just covered today on the podcast, so as much as we could fit in, where can they reach out to you? Where's the book? And is there a final tip that you would, or point you'd like to leave us with, whether it's something we talked about or something else you'd like to add to the conversation?
Okay, I will end with the tip. The best place to find us is on Instagram. So it's Being Method Breathwork. That's kind of our top social media channel, but I'm also on TikTok. And then the book, it's called How to Cry. It's at most online book selling places, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, whatever, Indigo. There's a website for it, howtocry.ca. And then the tip that I would leave with people is just that, through all those hard emotions on the other side of that is like a love that you could never possibly imagine. And I don't just mean like a romantic love. I mean like looking at the world with eyes through love, like everything.
Oh, amazing. Love that. So be sure to check out MJ's book, which I'm excited to read, like I mentioned, and also all the resources you got out there, all your links, all your social media as well. So be sure to link that up. So a massive thank you for everything you've been able to give us today. Thank you, MJ.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you. So that concludes our episode for today. And remember to lead with your heart and not with fear.